So, if you've ever used Terraform, you've probably had this moment. You write all this code, you hit Terraform apply, and poof, everything just kind of works. But have you ever stopped to wonder how? How does it know what to build first?
I mean, really think about that. How does it know that it has to create the virtual network before it can create the server that's supposed to live inside that network? It feels a little bit like it's reading your mind, doesn't it?
Is there some kind of secret, hidden magic happening in the background? Well, I've got good news for you. It's not magic. It's actually something way more clever. And by the end of this quick explainer, you are going to understand it completely.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk about why this is even a problem to begin with. You see, the order you build things in, it's not just a small detail. It's absolutely fundamental to getting anything to work at all.
This is just a universal law of building anything, right? Whether you're building with code or with actual bricks. You can't put a window into a wall that doesn't exist yet. It's just common sense.
I mean, just imagine trying to build a house by starting with the roof. It would be a complete and total disaster. You have to pour the foundation, then build the walls, and only then can you put on the roof. Get that order wrong and the whole project just falls apart. This is exactly the kind of mess that Terraform is designed to prevent.
So how does Terraform crack this ordering problem? Well, the secret isn't magic at all. It's actually a map. A map that Terraform builds all on its own, just by reading your code.
The core idea here is something called an implicit dependency. Now that sounds a little technical, but all it really means is that Terraform is smart enough to figure out the relationships between your resources automatically. It just sees how they refer to each other in the code you wrote. A great way to think about this is to picture Terraform as a detective. It scans through all your configuration files and it's looking for clues. It's not just reading your code, it's actively investigating it, connecting the dots to figure out the whole story of what you're trying to build. And this right here, this is the aha moment. This is the detective work in action. Let's say Terraform sees your code for a subnet. It looks inside that code block and it spots an argument called VPC-ID. That VPC-ID is a reference to your VPC. Instantly, a light bulb goes off for Terraform. It knows, aha, this subnet depends on that VPC. I absolutely must create the VPC first.
And it does this for every single resource, every connection in your entire project. This whole process builds what's known as a dependency graph. Think of it as Terraform's master plan, a complete, detailed map that lays out exactly what depends on what, making sure everything gets built in the perfect sequence. Now let's be real, 99% of the time, Terraform's detective work is flawless. But what about those few really tricky situations where the dependency isn't so obvious from the code? Well, for that, we have a special tool.
This is where something called an explicit dependency comes into play. This is you, the developer, stepping in to give our detective an extra hint. You're manually telling Terraform, hey listen, even though you can't see a direct link here in the code, I'm letting you know that this thing needs to be created after that other thing.
And here's what that hint looks like in practice. You see that depends on argument? By adding that to our app instance, we are explicitly telling Terraform, hey, hold on, wait for that IMEA policy to be fully created before you even think about starting this instance. It creates a link where there wasn't an obvious one before.
But here is the most crucial takeaway on this topic. You will rarely need this, especially when you're starting out. Always, always try to let Terraform figure it out automatically first. Think of depends on as your emergency tool, not your everyday hammer.
Okay, so this all sounds great, but it might bring up a little bit of anxiety, right? What if the automation gets it wrong? What if Terraform gets confused? Well, the good news is Terraform is designed with a very powerful safety net.
And that's a totally valid question. We're trusting this tool to build our infrastructure, which can be complex and expensive. So what happens if it's not 100% sure about the order of operations?
And the answer is incredibly reassuring. Terraform will never, ever guess dangerously. It's just not built that way. Its core design philosophy is to be predictable and, above all else, safe.
So if Terraform builds its map, its dependency graph, and finds a problem, maybe a circular logic where A depends on B and B depends on A, it doesn't just plow ahead. It stops. It will report an error and tell you exactly which resources are causing the confusion. It essentially raises its hand and asks you for help, making it less of a mysterious black box and more of a reliable partner. All right, so let's just quickly recap what we've learned. Terraform isn't magic. It's just really smart about reading your code to understand relationships. It uses what it learns to build that dependency graph, which becomes its master plan. For those rare edge cases, you can give it a hint with depends on. And most importantly, it's built to be safe. It'll stop and ask for help if it ever gets confused.
And that's really the whole thing, right there. At the end of the day, it all comes down to relationships. Because Terraform understands how all your resources connect, it can safely and reliably build your infrastructure in the correct order every single time.
So the magic of Terraform is really just a very clever, very logical system. And now that you know the secret, that feeling of mystery can be replaced with a feeling of control and confidence. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?